call, please.
Chairman Morse,
Here.
Commissioner Blue, Commissioner Cotton,
Here.
Commissioner Hesner,
Present.
Commissioner Heidner,
Here.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Here.
Commissioner Gorog.
Okay, we have a quorum. This evening, we have a public hearing case 1601, a petition filed by the Vernon Hills Park District requesting to amend ordinance 9159, which granted a special use permit for the community center to allow for the expansion of the Dolores C. Sullivan Community Center, as well as preliminary and final site and landscape plan approvals and preliminary and final approval of the architectural elevations. If someone doesn't know, the Sullivan Center is located at 635 Aspen Drive. It is currently zoned COS, Conservation, and Open Space. So who's going to speak this evening for the Park District? Okay, whoever's going to speak should probably step forward since it's a public hearing. We'll swear you all in together.
Oh, okay.
Okay, why don't you identify who everybody is first? Okay,
Your first time. Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Lalonde, Williams Architects.
Tom Richlick with Gaywell Hamilton Associates.
Jeff Fuger, Executive Director of the Vernon Hills Park District.
okay. So we ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this commission in the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
I do.
Okay. The primary rule we have is if you speak, you have to speak either from the stationary or one of the portable microphones, since everything is being recorded for posterity and the millions watching at home. Okay, so you're on.
Great. I'll take one of these.
Go to town.
Thank you, and we're here on behalf of the Vernon Hills Park District to present the proposed expansion to the Sullivan Community Center on Aspen Drive. I'll go through just a general overview and starting with the overall site plan. And let me know if you can all see this from where you're seated. I know it's kind of spread out in here. So Aspen Drive, the library's here, school across the street. This is the existing community center. And basically these kind of salmon-colored components are where the additions are proposed, about 17,000 square feet, in addition to the existing 32,000 square foot building, roughly around 50,000 total built out. And the parking lot is existing. There's more than ample parking. We can talk in more detail if there's any questions related to that. There is a slight expansion to parking along the east side of the building. The proposed modifications include an expansion here, which would be 4 new preschool rooms, replacing the 3 that they currently have, so a net 1 added. An infill on the, what I'll call the south side of the building, basically where the main entrance is now, is going to be staff office space. And then where most of the people already enter the building on the east side, because of obviously the majority of the parking is in that location, we're going to introduce a modest vestibule canopy to identify it as the main entrance and obviously provide those accommodations to the patrons. And then on the north end of the building, we're going to add a basically a single court gymnasium. Any questions, the overall site plan? So at a larger scale, you can see the preschool in this location. There is going to be actually there is a playground there now. It's going to be moved southward a little bit to allow for the new entrance into the building. And then there's going to be an enclosed fence area here that will allow the children to come out, a door on the south side here, get into the playground area, basically be safe in that environment, and then go back into the building. Here's where we're talking about the infill component, the new entrance, new parking. There's kind of a pseudo drop-off there now. We're actually eliminating that and providing additional handicap parking with the entrance walk that extends out to the parking area. And then here you can see the addition on the north end of the gymnasium. There is some existing pathways that are going to be rerouted around the north side of the gymnasium. And then taking that into the floor plan. Again, south side of the building, you can see the 4 new preschool rooms. teacher space, storage, toilets in the kind of center core with off a central corridor spine. Main entrance here. There'll be a completely controlled access if you're familiar with the building right now. It's kind of not an ideal situation because public is walking through the corridor where the preschool rooms are. So they'll have full control of the access point in this location with electronically lockable doors that are only accessed via the staff that would allow people in. The main entrance area here on the east, as I mentioned, will allow access into what was previously the main lobby of the building. There'll be a new, more modestly sized lobby in this area with a reception desk that greets people coming into the building. Staff offices. These are basically the staff that currently are in this building, recreational staff and admin staff. And then the Park District admin staff is going to be relocating to this building once the current staff moves into their new offices. All of this portion of the building is existing, so we're really not doing much with the multi-purpose rooms or the stage, the existing gymnasium, and other program rooms on this side. And then off the corridor that extends to the north between the multi-purpose and the gymnasium, gets you to the back of the building where we're going to have a kind of a breakout area, a little opened up to allow for the staging of people coming and going and the use of the gymnasium at the back of the building. The gymnasium is going to really replicate the size of the current gymnasium. There'll be some opportunity for some spectator seating in the space, ample additional storage, and then a potential access directly out to the parking lot if needed. Any questions on the plans?
Is that access you just talked about, is that emergency access only?
Yes, it would be a controlled access point. There would be a potential at certain times when they're having special events, maybe in the gymnasium only, where they might be able to open that up like a craft fair or something of that nature, and that way control access to the balance of the building.
What is that little space in the upper left-hand corner? Yeah,
Little storage area. Park District had experienced a similar type of storage in another location, liked it, and so they wanted to introduce that in the corner of the gymnasium. There is kind of a widened space here because of the spectator seating that allowed that to occur and not interrupt the courts.
Will those walls go full height?
They won't go full height of the gymnasium, no. So they'll probably go up about 10 feet. And we could put a slope top on it or something of that nature.
Because otherwise you'll get balls up there.
There'll be balls up there, right, if we don't do that, correct. Intentionally, right?
Are the doors that close to the courts safe?
I'm sorry, what?
In the upper left-hand corner, the way you've got the doors drawn, being that close to that basketball court, is that a safety issue?
Well, those doors will only be open when the court is not being used because they're going to be moving equipment in and out at those times.
Yeah, but that's relying on people.
Correct.
So is that safe from an operational standpoint?
From my perspective, it is. Sure.
Is that from the Park District's perspective? I mean, I'm a lawyer, and I'm a defense lawyer, and I could see plenty of problems with that if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, we see it pretty common in a lot of the gyms that are being designed and built out in the corners now. They're just kind of nice little shelf there as we can stack some balls and have access to it.
But the doors open out and are that close to the end of the court?
Yeah. Yeah. They're building them in a lot of even just tracks, suspended tracks where we're seeing in the corners now where they're trying to just pick up additional storage space.
Yeah, it looks like we have about 5 feet between that slanted wall and the corner of the court.
this
So
is
that-
interesting, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different,
a few questions.
right?
I had a question about the doors on the south end of the court. They're in line with the basket. Kind of a distraction for kids playing.
You know,
if they're open?
the reality of that, your comment's a good point. Truthfully, those could probably shift this way and make this a little more effective. As
Just
far
'cause
as
you're
storage
gonna
is
get stuff
concerned.
Hitting that wall a lot.
Yeah, and you're probably, well, you're going to want padding at that location, so it's better to put the padding on a wall than it is a door.
Right, with the handle sticking out.
That's a good point.
So are those locker rooms going to stay locker rooms?
Yeah, there's
are-
no proposed changes to those.
With the removal of the existing front entrance, the farthest remote office to the, I guess, the southwest, do you have the travel distance for them to get out?
Yeah, I believe so. It would be in this location or in this direction.
Okay.
I'd have to double check it. I haven't scaled it on the plans, but we did do a full code check on the building, and
Well, is that Jeff's office?
That'd probably be my office.
Well, see, you're going to be hoofing it. I mean, you can run it.
No, actually, that's Marla's.
Oh,
yeah, Jeff is over here.
Yeah, I'll be closer to the exit.
I have a question on the site, or just,
Sure.
but it kind of pertains to the addition. Those large trees that are in the front, are we going to be able to keep any of those, or?
Yes. Got the, we'll be able to keep the trees to the right of the existing entrance. So here's the new entrance, and right now it's a one-door,
Yeah,
and we're just opening up to a two-door set, with a canopy.
I'm talking about the other side.
On this side,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
where the main circle drive is, by where the main entrance is, we're going to
Yeah.
keep
You're
those.
looking at the large evergreens, Scott,
There's-
that
yeah,
are in
there's
that
like-
island?
We going to lose a couple of those?
We may. We're still looking at potentially trying to salvage those. The cost on trying to pull those out.
Oh, you can't,
and-
you can't.
Well, the nice thing is with those evergreens, though, they do have a tendency to survive. Any other species would be a little challenging. So we're looking at that because, look, we're in the tree business.
Yeah,
We
they're
want to
pretty
try and
big.
salvage. They're nice mature trees, so.
Yeah.
Our park staff's investigating that.
Okay. And is that, you said you were going to move shift that raised playground down. Is it going to remain a raised playground, or is it going to come down?
It's going to come down from its current height, but we'll be about 6 inches above the sidewalk. We'll have a
So it's going to come way
We'll have
down?
we'll have a box curb around the fence, so it'll look like you go curb up to the sidewalk and then curb up to the playground, but there'll be a fence in that same space.
That's good,
So
that's good.
that same fence will run along the sidewalk that fronts the new, the revised, used to be the circle drive here, and now it's just going to have this fence along there. So
And I was looking on the area that you feel is going to be disturbed as far as the adjacent areas to the building
okay.
in the parking lot, even though you're trying not to disturb the parking lot.
Yes, we did have to come out here, and what we're trying to do is make sure we grade appropriately to serve those ADA stalls.
The only question I had on that, first of all, is, of course, you're going to try to minimize that as much as possible, but that the corner that is just to the east of go up to a little higher there, they're right in there. It seems like it's really low there all the time, and water gathers down there. That might be a good opportunity to address that.
I know we had considered an alternate within the ultimate construction to do resurfacing for a larger portion of the lot. This was just trying to show what needed to be reconstructed for grades. But, yeah, I know even the village.
All I'm saying is just give it some thought,
Yes.
just a little thought, because I know I've stepped in that down
Puddle
there
there,
before, and it gets kind of deep sometimes.
A chunk of that water is here by this hydrant, and so we're already in that area working, so I'm anticipating I'm picking up that area. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Great.
I have something for you to consider. On the new main entrance, you've got the portico coming out from the building. Would you guys ever consider extending that further towards the parking? Looks like it's over 40 feet right now before you can get under cover. Just for parents dropping off their kids or people picking up people's, in our great climate.
I think it's certainly a possibility. I mean, there's obviously a cost component to extending that out an additional, let's say, 30 feet or 40 feet.
Yeah, I don't know what the distance is, it's just,
Yeah, I mean, we'd be fine to look at it with the Park District if it fits in their budget. It's a great idea. You want me to go through the elevations? I mean, they're fairly apparent if you're familiar with the building, but I'd be happy to walk you through it. The intent here is really to replicate the current look as much as possible. We did bring material samples, again, if you're familiar with it. We have, this board here, which gives you, and I took the large sample off because it literally practically fell off when I was, but that is the actual, what they call split face block sample that exists there now. It's the primary exterior material. And then you have the brick banding, that's the darker color that runs through. Again, we're going to really effectively, as much as possible, replicate what's there.
And you've put those materials up against the building, and you can say that they match very well?
Yeah, that's the actual, these are the actual materials. Now, over time, you're going to get a little change in color, so we'll have to take a look at that. But what we do in those cases, if you look at the plans, we have like slight offsets rather than try to align walls. And what that does is effectively creates a shadow line, so you break that color difference. So visually, it helps it blend.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and continuing the same vernacular is absolutely the right thing to do. Looks good, looks fine.
So that concludes our presentation. Unless there's other questions, be happy to answer them.
Anybody?
I have one question just about stormwater. It looks like you've got, you've got a little bit more impervious, but you put your impervious plan within this document that was given to us.
Yes.
How much are you increasing your impervious overall, and are you even getting close to what Victory Center can hold?
Yes. No, we're not flirting with it that far. The additional impervious is primarily in the new gymnasium. This preschool and the old turnaround drive balance out real close, about a 0.05 of an acre. So the additional impervious here. Now, what we did, coordinating through David Brown,
Right.
the new storm sewer we're going to run along the southeast side of the building here, and then we'll extend up into the Victory Center. So all of both the preschool addition and the gymnasium will drain northeast to the Victory Center. So we're diverting about 0.3 acres to that. From this report that Mackey did back in 2009, 2010, there's about 1.75 acres anticipated from the Sullivan Center site.
Right.
So
So
we're
you're in
using a
great shape.
piece of it. And then at David's request, we're sizing this for your 100-year, your 0.1 probability storm. So those will only really be sized, well, it'll be a 12-inch along the building and an 18-inch to extending into the facility. So,
You guys did a great job of avoiding all that.
yeah, this wetland is one of the avoiding. We were able to go through SMC with a letter of no impact. So.
Okay, anybody else?
no, one more thing.
Sorry.
Can I borrow your laser pointer?
You
real
can.
quick?
It's yours.
Stop on here. So on this path here, I understand the wetland buffer comes here. Is there any chance of softening the curve here of the nature path, other than the hard edges? I know that the middle school, and I don't know if the grade schools, but they do use this path when they run their mile.
Oh, okay.
Just something to consider.
Right now, it already kind of does that, so I agree.
Yeah.
We can do that, but obviously,
Smooth it out.
yeah.
This leg here is really just serving the sort of, I don't know, egress doors, but, not primary access. So having this thing arc around and follow the wetland buffer won't be a real change to how it's laid out or graded. We did take down this retaining wall. Our work cuts right to here, and it leaves about 15 feet of retaining wall, so there's just seems no sense in keeping it. We'll just have a slope that slopes down to where this new walkway will be. So.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I assume notices were sent out, we didn't receive anything back, or did we?
Notices were sent out. The only call I received wasn't in protest, but more was a question of the property south of the Sullivan Center that's currently vacant, and it was just a woman who was selling her home and was curious what was getting built there. So nothing pertaining to
Nothing on
this.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay, and then we have section 18.3 response points that was provided that is part of our record. To the extent that this is a public hearing, you have to ask if anyone from the public wants to comment on this. Okay, seeing no great rush, we can close the public comment portion. Anything else you'd like to add?
I'll just add, on that comment, Joe, with the property that's south of the Aquatic Center, one of the things we do have in our future plans is to do an extended pathway. If kids basically that use that area, they walk through it and it's just all grass. So one of the things we're looking at doing is just doing like a 4 or 6 foot wide path that can connect off of Aspen Drive, get kids back through Augusta as just a connection. So there's nothing in terms of a future plan with us. The school district has expressed some interest, but the park board is not interested at this point. They want to hold on to it. But just for the record, that is something we're looking at doing. So if it's a response back to that, I'm happy to handle that for you if just as a connection.
Okay, as you may know, we have a standing motion to approve or recommend approval at this commission. So our first motion would be a motion to recommend approval of an amendment to the special use permit to allow expansion of the community center. The conditions of approval that are provided by staff, I think you're aware of, are the proposed site plan, proposed engineering plan, proposed landscaping plan, and architectural elevations. They appear all to have a receive date of February 10, 2016. In addition, final approval by the village engineer and landscape architect prior to building permit, building materials consistent with the existing material, color, type of the Sullivan Center, which you've shown us this evening, compliance with all their ordinances and standards, and I think this evening you said you would consider what one commissioner mentioned, the tree preservation around the building, secondly, the extension of the east entry portico, dependent upon obviously finances and the like, and finally, the path reconfiguration to the, I guess it's the north of the building as a consideration. Okay, so with that, we need a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Baloo, Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulchrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorog,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay. Second, we have a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary and final site and landscape plans, subject to the same conditions that we just mentioned. We need a second for that. Okay, Jim? Any discussion on that? Okay, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulchrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorog,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. And then finally, we motion to recommend approval of the preliminary and final architectural elevations, subject to the same conditions. We need a second for that.
Second.
Any comments? Okay, we need a roll call on that.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulchrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorog,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Cotton.
And that.
That's what I tried.
Anything else you'd like us to do this evening? Or is that pretty much it? Okay, best of luck and
Thank
thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time tonight.
Okay. Any development review or discussion of any upcoming things we need to talk about?
Yeah, so as you've noticed on the agenda, we've got a few minutes for signature. We haven't had a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting it's really since July. But for better or for worse, the meeting, we'll have a number of meetings this year. We've got a lot of different development projects coming up. Some that are picking up from last year, notably the Sam's Club Fueling Station. They've been going through a technical review at a glacial pace.
We've
And
heard that before.
yeah,
they're back.
so previously the special use actually expired because they didn't act on it. So we're really just making sure that before they go in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission again, since this may be the last time they get to do that, we want to make sure that they are fully and ready, able to go. And so they've been toying around with different types of access. We've been requesting a northern access for them at the location they're looking at. It doesn't look like they'll be able to do that because the property owner to the north won't allow them to access it. And once the plans are before you, it'll be pretty clear why. It's essentially their Sam's Club parking lot runs north of the southernmost portion of the building of the other property owner. So essentially that fueling station will block the visibility of that building. So they're not too sparky about the idea of that being, granting more access to something that will visibly obscure them. Status update related to the Menards litigation. That's still going through the court procedure. I think the next trial or next date to hear ruling on summary judgment is February 26th. We'll see what happens after that. We also looked at Chase Bank is looking at Lot 2 of that subdivision. That's the northernmost outlot of the Menards property. Given the setback requirements that we have on that lot, based off of the annexation agreement that we have with the Cuneo property, it's a pretty tight lot. Not a lot is probably going to be able to go on there. So Bank might be a good choice for that. And I've met with them just on a preliminary basis, but they'll probably be going to the board for a concept review, I would say, in the next couple months. Otherwise, McAllister's Deli, that's located at the former famous Dave's property. That's 99 Town Line Road. It's a deli similar to a Jason's Deli or Potbelly's. They're requesting a drive-through at that location, not for anything but pickup. Because of the wait time, similar to Jason's Deli, it's not really conducive to just an order and wait, but they're looking at more of an online menu ordering, catering options, very similar to how Jason's Deli has their drive-through, which is used more for pickup orders. So that's just began the technical review process. Other items that have appeared before the board for concept is a synagogue is interested in locating to the former JL Oil building, which is right across the street from Village Hall next to the mobile gas station. That's a special use for a house of worship in a B1 zone district. So we'll haven't received any technical review plans yet. They're really not planning to do any changes to the exterior, but they are making some interior modifications. And they're also will need to do some site work as relates to handicap parking, making sure that their new spots are made for that. And actually, it technically needs a parking variation due to the current use, which is a dental supply warehouse, which is still going to be present and operating when they're fully functioning. There'll be co-tenants. From what they've told us, it's a very low use, up to 45 families with services once a month on Saturdays, and then some classes for both adults and children going on as well. But it sounds like demographically speaking, the individuals with children don't attend the Saturday service. They more are having the children attend Sunday school. So that's from what they've explained. They currently have a location in Mundelein at a Montessori school. Otherwise, we have the meeting next week with the Swanson Development, Woodland Chase. That's the southwest corner of Buffalo Grove Road and Route 45. That's going to be, it has to involve an annexation and a rezoning to an R5. It'll be a PUD because it's, in terms of density, it's close to an R4, but it's kind of right in the middle. Looking at about 7,500 square feet per lot. And 51 homes, and like a cluster home development. So I'm working on that, and we'll have that packet out to you by Friday.
So that's currently not part of the village?
Correct. It's always been part of the village's long-term comprehensive plan to be annexed into the village and be zoned residential. It just has never taken place yet.
The woman that owned it used to come. Yeah. Right. She was complaining about something. Lots of things.
There's,
About the MacArthur property, lots of stuff, yeah.
There's several different owners. There's the Conisecks, the Sislows, and the Martins, or Jim Martin.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, for Martin Associates?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Well, own it, and then So that's basically been how it's been going. And it'll be a custom-built development, so it's all, the architectural elevations are more indicative of what they plan to do, but they'll have design guidelines that they're incorporating as part of the plan submittal package, so you have a sense of what they're doing. They show some front elevations, they haven't showed side or rear elevations. However, they are intending to maintain four-sided architecture and in keeping with the design guidelines that they've outlined.
How big is it? Is it 41 homes? 51?
All right, 51.
How big is it?
It's about, I think it's 30 acres maybe. That might be more. No, that seems bigger. No, it's probably smaller. There's a lot of wetland to the south. That's one of the challenges with that site. The other challenge there is if you're ever driving down there, you notice that really nice, beautiful home on the western side. That home actually burned down several years ago and then was rebuilt. So that individual, needless to say, has no intention of selling it. And so, unfortunately, that person's driveway is just adjacent to I believe it's the River Grove subdivision. And so, the connecting point off of Buffalo Grove will be a right in, right out, due to the lack of, kind of connectivity between the two.
Would they have an entrance off of 45?
They are proposing to have an entrance. It's going to be.
Right out?
Correct. What we've told them is, due to Route 45 expansion and the like, it's very unlikely they would ever get anything more than a right in, right out. And so it's just better off for them to look at a right in, right out feature off of both 45 and Buffalo Grove Road. We have, okay.
No, I'm just saying, so for them to try and come this way or go
They'd have-
north or west, they'd have to turn around and Buffalo Grove.
Yeah, the westbound leg will definitely pose a challenge.
Where's the fire station in Lincolnshire?
It's on Shelter Drive off of 22.
Why do you ask that question?
I was just thinking of how a fire truck would get into that site.
And I don't know if they've, formally discussed, it is Countryside, Lincolnshire,
Well, they
or Lincolnshire.
anyway, right?
I believe so.
So they have a station over in Washington.
Not sure.
Right over by the left.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, in the park.
But still, they wouldn't be able to.
It's just about as far.
And I don't know the size, pork chop they plan to install. I mean, that's going to be ultimately a Lake County and IDOT decision, but I certainly think the intention is that it's, obtrusive enough that doesn't cause vehicles to think they can make a left-hand turn, but not so insurmountable that an engine couldn't drive through it.
Mountable. So,
Yeah.
and they don't have to pay attention to they go in through the outdoor, so.
In those townhouses down on 45 before you get to Dover, they've got that plastic chain that a fire truck can drive through to get in. Remember when they came here,
Yeah.
that was a way for them to get in?
Right.
Last,
Indian Creek's got the right and right out too, on 45?
Yeah.
Which most
Yes.
people turn left into.
Every once in a while, I will see
I
that.
see
You
that
do
a lot.
too.
Yeah, I see it a lot.
Yep.
Especially during rush hour.
I'll honk at them.
Because I take the train, A lot of people will leave the train and turn left into it. Right.
last but not least, we also have the Swanson Regency development. That's the northeast corner of Milwaukee and Town Line. Right now, the village board just approved the establishment of the joint review board for a TIF district. So we have completed an eligibility study for that corner. K. McKenna and Associates conducted that study and found it to be it's classified as blighted vacant due to the issues currently on the site. It was at one point I believe the landfill site for the Cuneo Mansion. So there is going to be some environmental remediation that will need to take place. Also evidence of chronic flooding, and the property value is also considered blighted due to its EAV increasing at a lower rate than the CPI, which pursuant to the TIF Act is an eligible factor. That's going to be a 270,000 square feet retail shopping center with an organic grocer anchor, as well as high-end outdoor retailer and among other clothing stores that aren't official yet, though I'm sure you could probably guess a few names. And then they'll also have a 260-unit apartment building done by Focus Development.
Oh, that's
And
gonna be great for traffic on that corner.
well, and one of the things that they are doing, and they have submitted for IDOT, is to create probably about $8 million worth of road work on that site, or on the roadway, creating an additional traffic signal between the shopping centers of River Tree and the Melody Farm Development's what they're calling it. They're also creating a dual left turn lanes in all directions, as well as a designated right turn lane from northbound Milwaukee to eastbound Town Line. And then they're also lengthening the northbound right turn lane on a westbound Town Line. That makes sense.
Because that's the going eastbound on Town Line is tough. It'd be nice if they had an extra lane.
That's gonna be a huge intersection.
Yes. And it's gonna back up all around it too, as it does today. All of those lights as you go and, you come west on Town Line, if you go that way in the morning, you've got all the stoplights, the traffic lights by the mall. Right. And then coming north on Milwaukee is always a joy. From any. Yeah.
Yes, that's terrible.
So how would pedestrians will then cross from Atrium Drive, probably over at that light. There will probably be a connector over there, by the Amley Apartments,
Yeah.
over there. So that would probably be how pedestrians could get across and then get over to the Des Plaines River Trail that way. But on the north side, or on the south side, how do they get there? How do pedestrians get there now from the west side of Milwaukee to the east side?
You're assuming people walk there?
I'm just saying.
They get in their car and they drive
They
across.
get in their car and drive.
But that is a
Well,
good question.
Jim, you're a walker, so
We don't,
go over
we
there.
don't go there.
You see some people walk at the light.
Well, if you're gonna have people living there, they're gonna wanna walk.
So there is the canoe launch to the south of Town Line. They're proposing, I believe it's like 20-foot wide sidewalks within the development. And so they're really trying to create walkability there, so that the intention is to have folks walk through the development rather than walk along the boundaries of it.
Probably best.
And so, one, it's a safety thing, and two, I think it'll add a sense of place for the development. But I do know they are looking to have a crosswalk from the easterly access south to the canoe launch, which will coincide with the outdoor retailer.
Now, have they talked about the need for a levee or, something substantive to wrap around this development, maybe to the elevation of the intersection? Something to keep the floodwater from coming into that site?
They haven't discussed that. I know because of the grade at that's certainly gonna be an issue they're gonna have to work through. But, that's gonna be for the engineers to figure out.
Well, I was thinking, how high have you guys seen
Oh,
water
my.
come up from the
High.
Des Plaines? I don't know how high it's come, but it can come up pretty high, I suppose.
I can't remember how high it comes this way, but it goes, even the house is going east. It's flooded them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than once.
Right.
I know that the site itself is about 54 acres and only 33 acres are usable because of wetland and the easterly side just is not.
Who owns that?
Right now, the Cuneo.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because at one point, they considered that the most valuable piece of property in Lake County. Doesn't sound like it is anymore.
No, I think it still is.
Well, it's blighted.
The purchase
It
price
has nothing to do with reality.
Yeah.
reflects a different,
Yeah.
the purchase price they're looking, that Cuneo's asked for, I think is about 34 million.
I
$1
think
million
walkability is
to
a
build
good
a
idea.
acre.
However, the kind of uses that you're describing that they're gonna put in there, those are destinations, those aren't walking. So we've seen in a lot of the big developments where we have big box type stores, people don't walk because they're so big with these, large fronts. So we probably would not fool ourselves that if, you put a large grocery store in it and you put a large outdoor retailer in it, you're not getting a lot of cross-marketing traffic. It's a destination.
I know one thing they have talked about is they pointed at other shopping centers like Deer Brook or Deer Park, where they've got these nice areas, but there's not this walkability element where if you want to go to, the Gap, you're going to go there, but then you're going to get in your car and you drive to the other area because it's not very pedestrian friendly. And so they're really trying to add that element. And they have submitted for technical review next week when I think everyone's here. I'll bring the plans and we can kind of go through them and show you the 3D renderings that they prepared. And
Is there anything that has a view, or do you do any kind of like a river walk, or are they just turning it back, the big boxes to the back of the river? Like, are they engaging the view of the river at all?
So right now, their plans have not done that, mainly because engaging with the river involves the Army Corps. And so,
I'm just talking visually.
oh, visually, yeah. No, I think we're going to be asking for something from them on that because our intention is to eventually have the ability to create some sort of pathway system back there for the residents. If the TIF is successful, certainly I think the hope would be that we would be able to do something with the site that would accommodate access to the forest preserve, and things of that nature that right now just haven't ever been contemplated because the use hasn't been there. But given the fact that there will be, residents living there, I think, those folks certainly are owed something to look at if they're happen to live on the northeast side of the building.
Take a look at the floodplain.
That'll be the higher rent units?
Mm-hmm.
Be nice.
Just like the condos built on Milwaukee where they never built the second building. The right in, right out only, remember that one?
Yep.
Next to the woman's correctional, is it youth now?
It's youth.
It used to be a woman's, well, whatever, next to the correctional facility.
We've actually had people come, the owner actually has come back up and said, we're interested in building it there. Building
Second
some. Second one, but he wants to make it apartments. He wants, what he's talked about is keep the exterior elevations exactly the same, basically just reduce, make it apartments and reduce the size of the units. So instead of 40, they want to increase the density to 60. And the parking, it would be just a huge struggle there because right now it meets the 2.3 calc for 80, but there's nowhere for overflow parking to go.
No, and it's right in, right out, and then you have people that own the residence who would probably not be real happy about having a rental property that they could throw a stone to.
What we have told the developer is if this is something you want to move forward on, you need to speak to the HOA and you need to get a letter from them or something in writing, basically giving them your go-ahead.
For those of you that were here when that came before us, that was the premium building was going to be the second one because it's closest to the river.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to get the views that if you're on the east would be the really sought-after views.
Yeah. And they have a connection to the forest preserve there too.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. But they, Regency submitted for technical review, so we do have that going through the works.
Okay. All right. So the approval of the minutes from the July 15, 2015 meeting. Any changes or comments to them?
The only comment I had, usually we always close the public hearing after the public's been asked to say anything, and that wasn't mentioned in those minutes.
In both minutes?
Pardon?
In
In-
bo-
Which one?
In the
15?
July 15th.
Okay. So with that change, we have a motion to approve. We need a second.
Second.
Okay, we can do it by acclamation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so those are approved. Then we have the approval of the minutes of July 29.
Second.
Did you have something, Jim, or no?
I don't think so. on that.
Okay, so we have a second. We can do that by acclamation as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Oh, okay, Jerry abstains.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that the last one? Are there two sets of minutes here or three?
Yes.
Two.
Okay, I do have lots of changes.
Oh. What do we got?
Because Commissioners Cotton, Mulcron, and Morris weren't here, and yet they, somehow
I made a motion.
Chairman Morris
That's a
made
good point.
3 motions in a row here.
That's a good point. I did read that.
Standing motion to approve.
Yeah, just not by me, I guess.
Yeah. So that would be, yeah.
So that would have been you.
Yeah,
I'm
would
assuming,
have been
yeah.
me.
You're right on page 5, just not on page 6.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so with that change, we can then vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And Jerry still abstains. Okay. Anything else we need to talk about this evening?
No, I think that's it. My apologies for the mess up there.
No problem. Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. We need a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Good night.
We are visiting